Hello everybody, today we're going to be ranking the Chibnall stories from Doctor Who. I did this once before, but that was before Series 12 had aired, and now there are 3 new stories to include on this ranking, so we are going to do it once again. And first I want to say that this ranking is entirely my opinion. I definitely have some strong feelings on some of these episodes, and you're probably not going to agree with some of them, and that's absolutely fine, so long as we both don't take this too seriously and just have fun with it. Also, I'm counting 2-parters as one singular story, so they only get one spot on this list, and most importantly, there are going to be some spoilers in this video. Also, I'm not going to be including stories that are co-written by Chris Chibnall. I'm only going to be including stories that are only written by him, and with that said, let's get started. The Serenga Conundrum comes in last place, and this is no surprise to me because it is still the story that I find just the least fun to be had in. I mean, it's okay, it's there, it exists right in the middle of Series 11, and it's my least favorite episode from that series, and it's my least favorite one from Chris Chibnall of his entire time on Doctor Who because, man, so little happens in this one that I find myself interested by. It just spends 50 minutes being there and being fine, and even the Doctor and companions don't really save this one because there's just not much of an interesting story in here, and it's okay, but it's not one that I ever find myself wanting to revisit. It is very middle of the road and very average.
And it's got nerve.
It's just ate my Sonic!
Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. This is a bit of a silly, ridiculous, kind of fun episode that you can sit down and relax and enjoy, and I have done that, and I find that, yeah, it's a fine ride. It's not a great story. There's nothing particularly memorable about this one. It's just there. It's fun. It doesn't have much in terms of anything special. It has some supporting characters, I guess. David Bradley is in it, but he doesn't really do that much. And yeah, it is an okay story, but there's nothing about this one that makes me really want to revisit it, especially above the other ones on this list.
Dig! I'm going to look at rocks. Love a rock. Dig with what?
Ah, well.
Did you just have that on you?
Of course. What sort of a man doesn't carry a trowel?
Arachnids in the UK. This is one that I do enjoy more than most people because I think there is some stuff to like here. I think the Doctor is good. It's interesting to see where Graham is in this story, and it has its problems, but I love the ending that we get with the companions choosing to travel with the Doctor. That said, the more I rewatch this story, the more I find that this billionaire is just not that interesting, and the performance doesn't work well, and it's like, yeah, this doesn't quite work. And the spiders work well enough, but you've got enough elements in here that don't quite, I guess, mesh well together, aren't quite interesting, and you get an episode that's just sort of there. And I do think this episode is pretty good. It has some stuff I really like, especially the ending, some stuff towards the beginning, as said, the Doctor, and especially the stuff going on with Graham, but also the stuff with the billionaire just doesn't really work, you know? And the spiders are fine, I think, but the resolution to this story is kind of on the weaker side. So, you know, you do have some things in here that do and don't work, and overall, I do enjoy this one. I think it's good, I think it's pretty fun, but it was definitely lacking to some degree. The Power of Three, one of Chibnall's earlier stories, and one that I enjoy. I think it's fun, it's fine, it's kind of interesting. I really do like the Doctor, Amy, and Rory together, and the premise of this one is kind of interesting, and I do like seeing the Doctor have to stay put for so long, but also, I don't think it really does terribly much with that. You've got some weird stuff going on with this spaceship. The conclusion to this story is just not very good. It just kind of lets everything fall flat. But up until that point, you have the first 30 minutes or so of the story, which I find fun, I find enjoyable, I find engaging, but then you kind of lose me towards the end. So this one is a little bit more of a mixed bag with a good start, but a kind of poor finish. And that's why it's a bit lower on the list, because it definitely could have been a solid story, but it was lacking a bit too much in places.
They want to be observed, so we observe them, stay with them, round the clock, watch the cubes, day and night, record absolutely everything about them. Team Cube, in it together. Can't do it.
The Hungry Earth, Cold Blood. This is, I think, a pretty good 2-parter from Chibnall. I do enjoy this Silurian story. It was the first one that I saw, and I think there's some fun to be had here. This is really just one of those stories that is in a season, and it's pretty good. It's enjoyable. You watch it, and then you move right on to the next one. And that's about all you have in here. There's nothing particularly special. I like the Doctor, I like Amy, I like Rory. It's an interesting situation that they find themselves getting into. But other than that, I mean, there's no really fantastic elements within this one that make it stand out. And yeah, it is notable for its ending, but really other than that, I mean, yeah, this is just a pretty good, enjoyable, solid story that I have fun with. It's a nice little two-parter. Not everything works, but it works well enough to entertain me for its runtime, and yeah, I like it.
You are beautiful.
42. This is one that does have a bit of a gimmick to it, which I thought worked well enough. I thought it was a pretty interesting story. Again, it's one that doesn't have anything stand out in it. I think there are a couple of good scenes with Martha calling her mother and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's just an enjoyable story that is engaging, moves along at a good pace, and you leave it having fun and thinking, yeah, that was a good one, but again, nothing all that special.
Chose this ship together. It keeps me honest. So I don't want false hope.
The parasite's too aggressive. Your husband's gone. There's no way back. Sorry.
The Battle of Ranskor Avkolos. This is a story that definitely doesn't get as much love as it should, and don't get me wrong, it's not a great one, but I do think this is a solid, entertaining episode. And if you think about what Series 11 is doing, having these smaller scale stories, these individual pieces, this works very well to conclude that kind of a season. It's not this big, grand thing that you get in Series 12 or most seasons of the show. It's this smaller scale story where we learn a little bit more about Graham and get to see everything going on in terms of that arc with Grace's death coming to a close and Timshar reappearing, and I think it just works nicely. It's a solid one, it's entertaining, it's good fun, I like it. It definitely doesn't stand out in terms of the finales of the show, but as just an episode and in terms of what the series is actually doing insofar as the actual kinds of stories it's trying to tell and the way that you would want to close this out, I think that in some ways this is the perfect way to do it, and this is just a good one that I quite like.
So what happened to you?
You did.
The Ghost Monument. This is a cool story as we see all of our companions and the Doctor get thrown into a situation they were not ready for and just kind of have to deal with it as it comes at them. It's an entertaining ride as they go along with these two characters, and it's fun, it's interesting, and the ending of the story with her finally seeing her TARDIS is fantastic. On the whole, I think this is just an enjoyable story, and it is made even better by that ending, which is, obviously a really good moment. But the actual episode itself is fun and engaging and is set up really well, and I just quite like it, It is one of Chibnall's better ones because it just has a good amount of momentum to it that goes throughout the entire thing, and it feels like they do have a goal right from the beginning where they find out that the Ghost Monument is the TARDIS. So that's all handled really well, and this one just works, plus it sets up something that we will see later down the line in Chibnall's era.
The timeless child.
What did you just say?
She doesn't know.
What are you talking about? What can you see?
We see what's hidden, even from yourself, the outcast.
The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Now, I think I might have actually put Ranskor Avkolos above Woman Who Fell to Earth on some ranking, and with time, that was definitely the wrong call, because this one just has more of a special feeling to it. It's not that much better of a story, but there's just more to it that I have a fondness for, and it is totally possible that this is due to it actually being 13's first story. I'm willing to believe that might be the case, but I just really like this one. I think it's a nice introduction to this Doctor, to these companions. It's got a great setting. I love the night scenes. I think they're all really well shot. I think Tim Shaw is a pretty good villain, and I think that it has some great stuff with Grace's death and with her having her Doctor moment on that crane. It's just really good fun, and it kind of holds a little bit of a special place in my heart for, I guess, being her first episode, but also just being a little bit unique and not really feeling like the rest of Series 11. It has a specific style to it, which I just am very fond of. Resolution. This is a really good Dalek story, making the Daleks more menacing than they've been in probably over a decade. They are really good in this one in the form of the Recon Scout, which just works so well. I love seeing that Dalek take over a human body and work to get its casing back. That's all done so well, and the episode builds and builds and builds, and it's just great. You have a couple of good supporting characters in this one. The companions are good, I think. The Doctor is really good, and there are a couple of things that don't totally work in terms of the actual way that the story resolves with the microwave oven. There's a cutaway joke in this one that I really don't like. But other than those two things, most of this story is really good and manages to balance some slow-paced drama with Ryan and his dad with some more action-heavy stuff with the Dalek. I think that's blended together pretty well, and it makes for what I think is a great Dalek story and an excellent reintroduction of these foes in Jodie Whittaker's era as the Doctor. Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children. Now, I have already talked about the story, and again, I'm not going to talk too much about it here, but I really like it. I think it's really good, especially the second part. I think it's thoroughly engaging. The first part managed to build everything up, and the second part just brings it all home in what I think is a great finale. It's not one of the best of Doctor Who, but it is a really good one, and Chibnall's best so far, and yeah, I just think this one is great. Again, not too much to say here because I've already discussed it, but I really like a ton of what's done in this story, and not quite everything works. There's a couple of places where I feel the story kind of cheats a little bit in what it's doing, but those things are so minor, they don't really affect my enjoyment of it that much, and on the whole, this is just a really good Cyberman and Master story that I found to be particularly memorable, and just a great finale.
We're not letting you go. You're not doing this. Get off me, Az! Please.
Revolution of the Daleks is just a lot of fun, to be honest. Sure, it doesn't hold a candle to the all-time great Dalek stories, but the reason I am as fond of this one as I am has to do with how thoroughly entertaining it is. The main characters are really what I come to this one for, including Jack, and they actually make this story what it really is. I have a great time watching these characters interact and spend time together, but I also appreciate the quieter moments that we have with Yaz and Jack, as well as the Doctor and Ryan respectively. In addition to that, the Daleks work reasonably well as a threat, and I like the stuff we get with them. I do think it could have been more focused in what it was saying, and believe that the story would benefit from picking one of the many different things it was doing with the Daleks and just running with that. However, there's still a lot of entertainment to be had from what's included, even if it leaves a little bit to be desired with the whole Dalek element, and I really liked the escalation of the threat in here. That was something that was very well handled.
My genetics can be modified.
There is only one purification. Exterminate!
Spyfall. It really wasn't going to be any other story because, as I've already discussed, I love this one. It's easily Chibnall's best. It is such a great story. This is the only one written from him by his entire era where I really feel like it absolutely stands out as just one of the best of modern Doctor Who. There's so much to love about this one, and I think it's a thoroughly entertaining Master story, and I gotta be honest, I am a sucker for a good Master Doctor story. I love when you can have such a great dynamic together on screen, and you really have that in here. They are absolutely fantastic. Plus, you've got some fun spy stuff in this. You go to a lot of different locations. It's really interesting. You have good villains that are sharing the screen, and you learn about why that is in a fun and interesting way. And there's just a lot to love about this one, and I have gone into it in detail before, so I'm not going to waste your time too much again here, but I love it, and I think it's fantastic, and I think it is easily Chibnall's best story. And yeah, that's that. Those are Chibnall's stories ranked again. Just wanted to add in the few stories that he did from Series 12 and look at whether or not I wanted to change the ranking at all. And ultimately, I didn't change it that much. It's practically the same as it was before, but I did want to update it for Series 12, so here we are, and be sure to leave your ranking of Chibnall stories down below if you feel like it, or just some of your favorites, whatever you feel like doing, if you would so like, and I hope to see you around soon for more Doctor Who reviews, both classic and modern discussions, and if not, that is absolutely fine, so long as you know that I appreciate your time here today. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, take care, and have a lovely week.